Okay, so when we look at month 2, we see that we had tasks 5 through 9, and our planned value again for tasks 5 through 9, the cumulative planned value was $11,000. Well, we only get earned value again for the tasks that we completed, which were 6, 7, and 8. So we get an earned value of $8,000. We get 0 for tasks 5 and 9 because we did not complete those tasks. So 0 earned value for those. So our total earned value for month 2 is $8,000. Our actual costs then are 2, 3, and 2, so $7,000 of actual costs. So again, the planned value is what we plan to have charged the project during month 2, right? So we plan to charge 11K. What we charge for month 2 is the tasks that we completed at the actual costs, so 7,000. And then what we should have charged the project is $8,000. This is the earned value, so we only get earned value for the tasks that we completed. Now, it's important to note that if you're using like Microsoft Project when you're tracking these types of things, you can earn, like if you are 50% done with your task 5, you might get the earned value of 50% of it. So in that case, you would get $1,000 for earned value if you were 50% done. We're not doing that here because we're using this example to kind of show you all how this works, okay? So the cost variance then, the CV and the CPI, and again, if you remember what we talked about in the previous video, the cost variance, if we look at our formulas, cost variance is the earned value, right? The budgeted cost of the work that we completed or performed, right, minus the actual cost. So we're talking about costs here. We're talking about the dollars spent, okay? CPI, same thing. We're talking about the dollars spent on the work that we've completed, okay? We're not talking about schedule. That would be schedule variance and schedule performance index, okay? So back here, if we look at, so the cost variance then is the difference between a task or the WBS components estimated cost and the actual cost, right? Okay. In our example, for months 1 and 2, we had an earned value of $19,000 and a actual cost of $20,000. And let me show you that again. So our earned value for month 1 was $11,000 because we completed all the tasks, and so we get the earned value of what it was budgeted, right? Okay, so 11,000 plus for month 2, we did 8,000. We only completed 3 of the 5 tasks, but we get the earned value, which is equal to the plan value. We get the earned value for those 3. So we get an earned value of $8,000. So 8,000 plus 11 is $19,000. And we're saying $19,000 for the earned value, minus the actual cost for those activities or tasks, which would have been, which is $20,000. You can go back and look and do that calculation too. So we get a negative $1,000 when we are negative on our cost variance. That means we're over budget. If it was positive, we would be under budget. If it's 0, we're right on target. The CPI then, so this is a measure. The cost variance is a measure. A measure is actually something that you can measure. It's going to be a number, something like that. So think about a measuring tape, right? You measure something and it's 24 inches and 3/4 of an inch or something. That's a measure. CPI is a metric, okay? And a metric is either going to be a ratio or a percentage. That's a metric, okay? That's the difference there. But CPI is using the same variables, earned value and AC. It's just doing a different calculation. So it's earned value divided by the actual cost, right? And in our example, we get 19,000 divided by 20, so we get a CPI of 0.95. If it is under 1, that means that you are behind budget. You are experiencing cost overruns. Okay? If it's over 1, you're ahead of budget, and that would be cost underruns. If it is equal to 1, you are right on budget. Okay? So schedule variance then and SPI are very similar, except we're looking at earned value and planned value. So remember, planned value is about the scheduled work to be performed during the month, okay? And so it's the difference between the current progress versus its planned schedule. So again, earned value minus the planned value. And in our example, we have the 19,000 as our earned value. That's what we've earned. That's the value of the tasks that we've completed, right? Minus what we were supposed to have completed, a negative $3,000. In this case, if you have a negative schedule variance, you are behind schedule. Versus if you had positive, you'd be ahead of schedule. And if it's zero, again, it's right on schedule. The SPI then is the metric that goes along with this. And it's the same thing, earned value divided by the planned value. So you get 19 divided by 22K, and you get a 0.86, okay? And since it's under 1, that means, again, that you are behind schedule, okay? And we know that from our example, from looking at when we just simply looked at this at the very beginning, we knew we were behind schedule because you see we didn't complete task 5 or task 9, right? We didn't get any earned value for those. So we know we're behind schedule. So the reason that this is valuable to us, because when you've got an entire list of tasks and activities and you're 50% here, there, and the next place, this is going to give you an idea of where you are in your project at any snapshot in time, okay? And so you're going to use that information to make those decisions about what corrective actions you need to take, okay? So the estimate at completion then, if we look at our very first slide again, the estimate at completion is the budget at completion, which we know was 133,000, I believe, because it's the total budget for the project. But it's divided by the CPI. And what that means is you're using a current performance metric in this as one of the variables. So it's taking your current performance on the project and it's applying that performance over the remainder of the project. Okay? So you would use this you would use estimate at completion if you believe that the project's current performance metric is going to continue, right? So here's the example. And again, we just looked at the formula. It's BAC divided by CPI. We know our BAC is 133. That's the total cost of the project, divided by our current cost performance index metric, right? And we get, when we do that, we get a budget at completion of $140,000, right? So if we believe that the variances or the problems that we've experienced so far in the project that's making us either have a cost overrun or behind schedule or whatever it is, right? If we believe that those variances will continue for the rest of the project, then this is going to be a really good estimate at how much the project is going to cost if we continue at that same performance level. Okay, so then your variance at completion is going to be the difference between 140K and what you had budgeted, right? So if we look at, let me go back to our first slide here. So variance at completion is the budget at completion. I'm sorry, the estimate, yeah, let's do this one first. The estimate to complete is going to be what we just calculated, the estimate at completion, so $140,000 minus what we've already spent, the actual costs, right? So it's the remainder of the money between the 140 that we figured minus what we spent already. Your variance at completion is the difference between those two, okay? So it's the difference between what we calculated, $140,000, and what we started with, which was 133. So our variance is going to be negative $7,000, okay? And I'll go back and we'll look at that again. That's the variance, right? And your estimate to complete is the remaining amount of money that you will spend on the project using those same performance. And the reason that you know it's using the same performance is because when you look at the formula, estimate to complete, you're using a variable, EAC, right, that has a performance metric in it. So you know you're using your current performance metrics when you are coming up with these numbers. Okay. Same thing with your TCPI, your to complete performance index, and that's given by this formula. And again, I have an article in the folder with your assignment. And it's a 2-page article. It's very short, but it's a great article because it gives you 2 different formulas for TCPI. And you're going to use one formula based on your one performance indicator, and you're going to use the other formula if your performance is doing better than what you expect. As you read the article, it explains very, very clearly. And what I want you to do is when you are doing your EVM assignment, you're going to have to make the decision of which formula you should be using in that particular scenario based on the circumstances that you're given. Okay, so I want to see you choose the correct formula in that particular problem. And so that's pretty much it for the EVM formulas and kind of walking through them and explaining how the plan value, earned value work in terms of finding out whether or not you're ahead or behind schedule, and the actual cost and the earned value in terms of finding out whether you are you're experiencing a cost overrun or a cost underrun. So if you have questions, certainly let me know. But this is really the fun part of project management is when you are using all these different metrics to identify at any snapshot in time how your project is performing, and then using that information to determine what kind of corrective actions you're going to take for the project, whether you're going to crash the project or those types of things. And this is really where project management gets to be really fun. So I hope you all enjoyed these videos, and good luck with your EVM assignments.